In this video, we'll be working through Chapter 4 of the introductory tutorial for XPdrainage. As one can imagine, Chapter 4 will pick up at the end of where Chapter 3 left off, which was reviewing the results of a completed model. So Chapter 4, we're going to go through all the different ways to submit a project. So the first thing we might want to do, given how beneficial the true to build layout environment that XPdrainage provides, first thing we might want to do is to export this plan to CAD. Under the export ribbon, we can say export to CAD. Under a submit folder, I gave it a name, developed plan export, and save. And I'm going to select just the visible layers. And we can see what this looks like in CAD. So I've exported this object. You'll see it looks quite similar to what's shown in XPdrainage. We have something else which comes across is we actually have a number of annotation and notes for each of these objects. So for instance, for this arch chamber facility, we have top, bottom elevations, the manufacturer type, so on and so forth. The idea is to publish information out to CAD so that a designer, someone working on perhaps a site grading plan, could seamlessly begin to do their work and complete finished grading plan or see on the site what the stormwater team is proposing. I know it only takes a second, but beyond the export to CAD for the plan, well, we also have the ability to export this pipe network out directly to CAD. Another thing we might want to do. So under export, again, we have pipe network to land XML. And I could say pipe network, and yes, I want to replace that. It happened so quick. Let's go take a look at the model. So in CAD, this is what we're looking at. So I have a CAD file where I've brought in the land XML pipe network. We can see here that all the vertical attributes that are associated with that element are brought in to this CAD file. You'll see slope, lengths, inverts, so on and so forth. So it really just takes a couple seconds to export all of the plan and all the pipe network out to CAD. And really, it's the final site information in all its 3D attributes in one go. From here, we might want to look at plotting or simply exporting the profile. So I could show the profile. And from here, we can select profile plot. This is also shown under export. There's plot profile. Similarly. In this profile plot summary, we'll see that I can turn on showing the HGL and update the preview. And at this point, I could print to a plotter or save this out to CAD. Similarly, export to CAD, export to image are all ways we could publish or submit this profile. So if I say export to CAD, here is a profile plot. Give it a name. Export this to CAD, and we can look at what in CAD this would look like. So here is our profile with the annotation, with the HGL, all shown, ready for submittal. The next thing we could do in XPdrainage would be to export out to GIS. Now we could export individual model elements to GIS, or we could simply export the entire phase. So I can export everything in the developed phase of this project. So I'll select a shapefile. I'll give it a name and select next. And I could choose which element types to export. I want to export everything. So it starts with inflows. I might just select really all of the SCS main variables, perhaps some of the preliminary items as well. Moving on. Stormwater controls. Again, we have lots of options here. We can export results as well as input parameters. So in this case, I'll have the basic information, cover level, depth, as well as the results. So the main physical description as well as all the result items, junctions. In this case, the usual suspects, the cover level, that would be the top, the invert, those are fine. For inlets, perhaps I want to know where it's going to, where it's coming from, the type. Outlets, here's the orifice, so I can show all the orifice details. Finally is connections. The default list for connections is pretty thorough, so export. It just takes a moment and we'll see that we have shapefiles for all these different objects that contains all this information. So that could be something submitted to the city or county or used for further review by other teams, which perhaps are less CAD focused and more GIS focused. One last item which comes up quite a bit is a desire to have some sort of printout of everything in the model. So under File, Print, we could simply, let's say if I select Phase Details, we can have a printout showing all of the model attributes in the system. So here we have a list of all of the runoff, all the stormwater control and inlet information. And ultimately this can be saved or printed, saved to PDF or printed directly to a printer. Another item we could look at is what we're going to call takeoff data. So under results, there's takeoff data. This would be a bit of a summary of, as we can see here, the types of junctions, the sizes. In this case, pretty useful is seeing the different size of pipes that are specified, the diameters, the total lengths, and the volumes that those occupy. We could dive into more details through these individual tables. So here's all the different objects, number of barrels specified for each of these lengths. This, of course, we could save this off as a PDF or out to Excel, depending on how you want to work with this. The last piece that we could export to submit would be tables. So if I look at, double click or right click and edit on the table view, I can look at inflows, junctions, connections, anything in the model. And ultimately, I can select this entire table, copy and paste this out to Excel, right click, export to a range of different formats. So that concludes Chapter 4 of the introductory tutorial to XPdrainage. Thanks for watching.